Okay, we're solving equations with complex solutions. In this instance, we have x to the power 4 plus x squared equals 30. What we want to do is solve this, and one of the best ways to do this is by bringing everything over to one side because it is an equation. Let's bring the 30 over to the left-hand side and bring 0 over to the right. So we're going to subtract 30 from both sides. So let's take away 30, which means we're going to be left with a trinomial, which looks like this: x to the power of 4 plus x squared minus 30 equals 0. Now the next step is for us to factor this in order for us to get solutions, and one of the best methods for doing that would be the cross method. And the cross method works like this. You put an x there and you find two variables that you multiply to give you x to the power 4. So what gives me x to the power 4? Well, x squared times x squared. So I'm going to put an x squared here and an x squared. X squared times x squared is x to the power 4, so that works. And then what I want to do is find two numbers here that multiply to give me negative 30. They multiply to give me negative 30, and they add to give me plus 1x squared, and they add to give me 1x squared. So multiply negative 30 and add to 1x squared. So let's experiment. What are two numbers, first of all, that multiply to give me 30? Well, 2 and 15. 2 and 15, they'll never add to positive 1, so it can't be 2 and 15. What else will give us 30? 3 times 10. 3 times 10 is 30. Yep, that will give us the 30, but they'll never add to positive 1x squared. How about 6 and 5? 6 and 5 is 30. One of them can be negative. Let's say negative 5. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. That works. Now they've got to add to 1x squared. Let's try it. 6 minus 5 is positive 1, so that works. We're going to use these two guys, 6 and negative 5. Let me put them up here. We have 6 and negative 5. They're the two factors. Let's test it. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. That works. And we got 6 minus 5 equals 1x squared. That works too. So that's all we need to do. Now we just put the brackets around these guys and then drag and drop them over here. So we got x squared plus 6 and we have x squared minus 5. And they equal 0. Let's work with one side at a time. Let's work with the x minus 5. That looks like a difference of two squares because it's a difference. We got the minus 5. Now we can use formulas to do this because this is a sum of two squares. We're going to give you a shortcut method, a good hack. Instead of using the formula, we just make x minus 5 equals 0 and solve it that way. Let me show you. So we go x squared minus 5 equals 0. Bring the 5 over to the right-hand side, so that means x squared equals positive 5, like that. So we added 5 to both sides, so now it's x squared equals 5. And we take the square root of both sides, square root of the left, square root of the right. We're left with x equaling, now when you square root, it's a plus or minus the square root of 5. Plus or minus square root of 5. There are two solutions. So x equals the square root of 5, and x equals negative the square root of 5. So there's our two solutions. Those two solutions happen to be real, not complex. They're not imaginary. They're actually real. Okay, so there are two solutions. That's for this side here. Let's work with this side here, x squared plus 6. Let's start to solve it. Use the same technique. This is where imaginary numbers is going to come useful. So let's go x squared plus 6 equals 0. Let's bring the 6 over the right-hand side. X squared equals, subtract 6 from both sides, so that becomes negative on the right-hand side, negative 6. Now let's take the square root of both sides. Square root, square root. Square root of x squared is just x, and that equals plus or minus. Now it's going to be 2 square roots. That's the same as the square root of 6 times the square root of negative 1. Now you may remember the square root of negative 1, that equals I. imaginary unit I equals the square root of negative 1. So we can replace that with I. So that's going to equal, x equals the solutions plus or minus, these are the roots, square root of 6 I. Or you could write it, x equals plus or minus I root 6. So there's two solutions. Again, I'll write them here next to it. X equals positive I root 6, and x equals negative I root 6. Let me just fix up the I, negative I root 6. So there's our solutions. On this side, they're imaginary. The two solutions are imaginary. These two solutions, and over here, they're real.